Good morning on this beautiful day. We greet you today in the mighty, mighty name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Bless his holy name. We thank you very much for your presence. Just allow me to trying to do everything, recording and trying to preach the word. So we thank you for your faithfulness, tuning in and being hungry for the word. And I believe that God has something for you this morning. We're going to look at John chapter number 18, starting from verse 1, I believe, to 10 or 11. We're looking at Jesus' arrest, that it wasn't a mistake. When Jesus was arrested, it was based to predictions and the prophecy from the Old Testament, from the scriptures, to show that he was in control and that things didn't just happen to him, either, surprised him, or it was the plan of the evil one, even though he recognized that the hour was the hour of darkness. It was the moment given by God to the kingdom of darkness to reign, to have its moment. But one thing we know is that the devil is an agent of God, is an agent of evil. Every work that has to do with evil, God give it to the angel of darkness, to the angel of evil, Lucifer. That's his job. He's a hireling, is hired by God to do those work. That's, God cannot mix his holiness cannot be mixed up with unholiness, with evil. So the devil's job is to do evil. And that was the hour of darkness, the hour of the evil one, when they came and arrested Jesus. And then took him away to be crucified. He went through his trials. I'm going to give you, I haven't forgotten about the 6 trials of Jesus. There's a sermon coming on that. And just watch out for it. It's going to be very, very interesting, very exciting. And you are going to see the intricacies of the Jewish and Roman trial, of the Greco-Roman world in the first century. So we today, looking at John 18, now we look at the predictions that Jesus, it was important that because of the way he was going to be humiliated, it was very important that he prepare his disciples that about what was going to happen, that he was still in control, that everything that he was doing, it was to show that even that dark hour, even though it was deep darkness, the time where the devil stood strong. I was thinking that, the concentration, why the devil was in Jerusalem. 3 times Jesus said that the devil is there lurking. Do I have here where it says, he entered Judas, and then after that Jesus will pick up the devil. When Peter confession, just after the confession at Caesarea Philippi, Peter will say, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." And Jesus will, after that, telling them, don't tell anybody, what we call the messianic secret. And then you start predicting his suffering. And Peter said, no. Far be it from you. That will not happen to you. And when Jesus, they rebuked him and speaking to the devil, he could see that was still lurking there. He said, "Get behind me, Satan." And while he was talking to Peter, so the devil was in Jerusalem at that moment, and he knew the time, the authority that God has handed the powers to him to do whatsoever he wanted with the Son of Man, the Messiah. He came as a lamb prepared to be slaughtered. So we see that why wasn't the devil in Greece, or Rome, which was the the capital of the world, the known world at that time? Why not in the Empire of Persia, Nineveh, Babylon, Damascus, Syria of Antioch of Syria? Why was it in Jerusalem city during the last week of Jesus? And culmination, as they came to arrest Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, and then those 12 hours before his crucifixion, they are going to humiliate him, disgrace him, mock him, spit on him, beat him up, scourge him, flog him, bind him up, and do all these ignominious things, disgraceful. It's very, it's like taking a king and treating him as a slave, as a prisoner. What a moment. But he wanted to prepare his disciples of that moment, because that was the hour of temptation. But he needed to strengthen them, prepare them. I wanted to show you that Jesus was perfectly in control of what was happening to him. And we are John 18 verse 1. When Jesus had spoken these words, he went out with his disciples over the brook Kidron. Is a wadi, a ravine, a valley, a deep cut in the mountains, the Mount of Olives. So it's that Kidron separate. It's a big drop, a deep cut into the valley, and those valleys were dry during the dry season, the summer, and during the raining season in the winter. They have like a brook of water, rivers, that of water from the rain that's flowing underneath, deep down in the ravine, in those brooks. It separates the Temple Mount with the Mount of Olives. There is a big cut there. So to go there, it's quite, to go to the Garden of Gethsemane, you have to, coming out of the city of Jerusalem, it's quite tedious to go through this Kidron Valley, so that you get to the Mount of Olives, and then go to the slope down into the Garden of Gethsemane. I believe it's a private garden, belonging to a wealthy man. I believe Jesus, his last week, he went there regularly to sleep. We have an account, Luke 21:37. Just real quickly and just show you that Jesus went there often. 21:37. And in the daytime, Jesus was teaching in the temple. This is the last week. His last week is what we call the Passion Week. In the daytime, he will go and teach in the temple, and at night, he went out and stayed on the mount called Olivet. That's a Mount of Olives. So he would go there at night to sleep, which was close to Jerusalem, about 2.5 kilometers or 3 kilometers away from Jerusalem. So he goes, Garden of God. I believe there were inns, places for people to start. I told you it was kind of a factory. They were manufacturing olive oil and stuff, because there was a lot of olive tree. It's a garden of olive, an orchard, a grove. So at night he will go there, sleep. During the day he goes in the temple and does his things. During the last week, all the events that he did during the last week before his crucifixion, it's called the Passion Week. So verse 2, and Jesus went out with his disciple over the brook Kidron, where there was a garden which he and his disciples entered. Okay, and Judas, who betrayed him, also knew the place, for Jesus often met there with his disciple. Then Judas, having received a detachment of troops, a garrison, the garrison was there. It was Passover, so they kept a detachment of troops. It's a 600-man Roman military unit. That's what a garrison is. So it is stationed, it's believed, in the fortress. Antonia Fortress was built right next to the temple, so that they control the Jews during the festivities. They didn't want any riot, the crowd to be aroused and because there's a lot of people. So any small little movement, it's easy to move the people and try to overthrow the Roman powers. So they need to control that. So that fortress was built next to the temple, and the priests, the Sanhedrin, didn't like it because they were looking, it was high, so they looked right into if I show you on a map, you'll see that the fortress looked right into the temple, so they could see some of the daily sacrifices that the priests are making them. So priests didn't like that type of control, but it was done. And it was also kind of an issue of tension between the two. So that garrison was there, sometimes from Caesarea, I told you, Caesarea Maritima, Caesarea by the sea. That's where the governor, Pontius Pilate, will reside. So sometimes during festivity, they will get reinforcement of soldiers to reinforce this fortress during festivities and during that week, or 8 days or 2 weeks, just prior to the 8 days when the pilgrims start coming, and then a few days after that, because the tourists will stay with families and friends. People come from all over Alexandria, Egypt. They come from the dispersion, all the Jews all across, all the way to Rome, to Antioch in Greece, Macedonia, in France, all the way to Spain, and also to the east, in Persia, in Babylon, and all of that. It's just full of Jews all over the place. Remember, the book of Peter. First Peter, he writes to all those Jews that are in dispersion. Even the book of Jesus' brother James, right? To all the Jews that are in the diaspora, in the dispersion. So there was a lot of Jews that comes during festivities, and they needed to reinforce the garrison, the soldiers. So here we have it believed maybe around 300 people. Some scholars doubt it. At 300 people, it's a lot of people. But there was a lot of people that came to arrested Jesus. So an entire detachment of troops and officers from the chief priests, the Pharisees, came there with lanterns and torches and weapons. Another account says that they had clubs. It's believed that the weapons were carried by the Roman soldiers. So the Roman soldiers came with the Levitical temple police. So the temple police, remember, they tried a few times to arrest Jesus before, and they could not. So this time they did reinforcement. So we're done. They wanted Jesus arrested and crucified. So they came with the Romans as a reinforcement. So the Romans were the reinforcement that came to help the Sanhedrin, the chief priests, the Pharisees. So they took the police, the temple police, plus the Roman soldiers to come and arrest Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. Verse 4, Jesus, therefore, knowing all things, this is what I wanted to touch on. Jesus knew all things. Jesus knew all things that was happening to him. This was not a surprise. And it was important. He knew, but his disciple didn't know. So that's why he had to predict for them. Prophecy at that time was that those predictions was for his disciples. When the hour of darkness will come, they will be strengthened. But we know that they will all abandon him, all will desert, and all will run away, and he will stand as a shepherd alone, and he will, give in to his fate. Okay, understanding everything. Jesus, therefore, verse 4 of John 18, knowing all things that would come upon him, went forward and said to them, whom are you seeking? Sometimes I think when that confrontation happened, a big group of soldiers with swords and clubs and all kind of weapons and lanterns and torches, because it was at night, it believed it was around 2 o'clock in the morning. And when they came to arrest him, he was in the Garden of Gethsemane. That night, he could not sleep. The whole week he slept in the Garden of Gethsemane. But that night, Thursday night, going into Friday, he will be crucified 12 hours from there. It's Friday. And he knew everything that was going to happen to him. Everything. Every detail. Matthew 16:21. Jesus was in control. And as I was saying, Jesus was in control of what's happening here. Sometimes I think that, these he wasn't on trial. He wasn't getting arrested. He gave himself. He said, I lay down my life. Mark 10:45. John 10:11. Let's just look at that. John 10:11 first before we go to the scripture that I wanted to show you, the predictions. Jesus here says, John 10:17. John chapter 10 verse 17. Same book of John, just a few chapters backward. 10:17. Therefore, my Father loves me because I lay down, not the devil, not Judas, not the Sanhedrins that wanted to do some. I, Jesus, the Son, lay down my life that I may take it up again. I willingly give it that I may take it up. Verse 11, same chapter 10. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd gives freely, willingly his life for the sheep. Verse 15, same chapter. As the Father knows me, even so I know the Father, and I lay down my life. So he was laying down. He was prepared, ready. When you continue to read, we don't have time. I just want to cut it short. 3 times he's going to say, whom are you seeking? They say, Jesus of Nazareth. They say, I am he. Do you know that word he means Yahweh of the Old Testament? The one who appeared to, in Exodus 3, to Moses. And Moses said, no, I'm not going there. This was the man who was 80 years old. Who can ever wait for God, for a promise, to a point he was 80 years old? Moses was used by God and started his ministry for 40 years when he was 80 years old. For 40 years, adopted into the royal family through the daughter. We know the story. And Moses will grow up to a point he was 40 years old as a prince. Could have been, apparently he was older, could have been the heir, the next king, the next pharaoh, ever that pharaoh would have died. I believe it's the Tumets II or Tumot III or something, I forgot the name. That was the pharaoh during Moses' time, the one who Moses and Aaron will go face. Tumot II or Tumets III or something like that. So when God appeared in Exodus 3 to Moses, Moses said, but what will I say to the children of Israel that you are? This is 400 years later. They don't know you anymore. Who are you? I am he. I am he. That's Yahweh. Go tell them Yahweh. That's what Yahweh means. I will be who I will be. I am who I am. The creator. What I say becomes. So Jesus was appropriating himself that name. They could not stand. When he said that name, it says that Judas and everyone that was present with him fell. I don't know if the disciples also fell. But those who came to arrest him, even what was Jesus was telling, I'm in control here. Let me set the scene first. The devil is not in control. I am in control here. And so, whom are you seeking? It's here. Verse 5. Then answering him, Verse 4. Jesus, therefore, knowing all things that will come upon him, went forward and said to them, whom are you seeking? This is talking to about 300 people. They answered him, Jesus of Nazareth. We are seeking Jesus. These are the people that come to arrest you. Whom are you seeking? Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus said to them, I am he. That word I am he is the same word Yahweh, that to be, was used in the Old Testament. God told Moses in the burning bush, I am he. Go tell them I am he. I'm sure the Father was with Jesus in the garden. Gethsemane. We need to go look at that garden again 2,000 years later, because that night something happened. Jesus said, I am he. They fell down 3 times. Over 300 people. They fell down. Keep on falling down. Keep on falling down. Until he said, okay, take me. I am the shepherd. I'm laying down my life. Now I'm sure that if he did not want to lay down his life, they were not going to take him. The stage was set already. I am in control. I'm giving my life. You're not taking it by force. I am laying it down willingly. Matthew 16:21. Just close off with this quickly. The prediction. From that time, Jesus began to show to his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem, not Samaria, not Tiberias, not Jericho, not Capernaum or Nazareth, Jerusalem. He knew exactly where it was, what city, when, and how everything was going to happen. And suffer many things from the elders, the chief priests, the scribes, and be killed and raise the third day. 17:22. Now, while they were staying in Galilee, they were still up in Galilee, Jesus said to them, the Son of Man is about to be betrayed into the hands of men, and they will kill him. So he's talking about his betrayal. He's going to name him. We know it's Judas. He's going to name him everything to the last detail. And they will kill him. And the third day, he will be raised up. And they were exceedingly sorrowful. Luke 9:22. Understandably so, because they've given up everything to follow this man for 3 years and a half, and now he's telling them that he's going to kill him. You know, how would you feel? All the investment of 3 years, these were business people, hardworking people. Now they've got families and responsibility. They've got dreams and a future. They put in this man, and this man is dying now. So there's reasons to be sorrowful and scared and be scared, and didn't know how the future will be, even though not themselves also be tracked down by the Sanhedrin, maybe also follow the same fate, because they had secret service and intelligence. They wanted this movement because it was a threat to the temple life, the whole Sanhedrin and law and order and stability in the Jewish community. No. They want this. They saw him as a rebel, arousing people and provoking mass movement or something. This rebel, we need to get down with it. And all his disciples, remember Peter would deny him 3 times because he was recognizable. Could recognize this also is a member of this gang, and we need to finish them off. Luke 9:22, saying, the Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, the scribes, be killed and be raised the third day. Rejection, mocking, spitting on him, beating him up, chain him. All of that was predicted. Betrayal by a kiss, by a supposed friend. 22:31. 18, Luke 18 first. Same book of Luke, 18:31-33. Then he took the 12 aside and said to them, behold, we are going up to Jerusalem. We are not going to Bethsaida and Jericho. We are not going to Caesarea Philippi or anywhere else. We are going to Jerusalem. And all things that are written, prophesied by the prophets concerning the Son of Man will be accomplished, will be fulfilled. For he will be delivered to the Gentiles and will be mocked and insulted and spit on. Everything that happened, which we will continue to read, and the other account in the other gospel is going to explain what are some of the things Jesus went through. The 6 trials, 3 in the Jewish court, 2 happened at night, which is illegal. Annas, the first high priest, the former high priest, and then to the second, the current high priest, Caiaphas. So those 2 trials happened that night, which is illegal. No trial must happen at night. But they couldn't convene the whole, I told you, the Sanhedrin, the Supreme Court of the Jewish people had 70 members plus one. One is the high priest. And I'm sure that they had a kind of a quorum, 2/3 They couldn't be convened to a third majority at that night, because it was still illegal. But they will convene a quick one early in the morning at dawn. I'm sure that morning they had the third majority. Then they will go to the Romans. They needed something. They did not have a right for capital punishment. Only the Romans had the right to crucify somebody. So they had to have some kind of a case with, they falsified false witnesses, and they went to present to the Romans. Quickly. That was early in the morning. That's the third one. Early in the morning they had, and they convened another trial. And during all those times, they were beating him up, mocking him, spitting on him. The soldiers, they were really, really torturing him. He was tortured that all night. Even when he went to the Romans, he continued to be tortured. Luke 22. (31 to 33). And the Lord said, Simon, 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 Simon Peter, stop talking too much. Indeed, Satan has asked for you, that he may swift you as wheat, but I have prayed for you, that your faith should not fail. And when you have returned to me, strengthen the brother. But Peter said, Lord, I am ready to go with you. This is prediction of Peter's denial. Jesus predicted everything to show that he was in control of his arrest, his trials, even in his crucifixion. Even though it was the dark time, the hour of the evil one, but yet God was still in control of everything. Trust him. Even when you go through things that you think that you're not understanding, God's still in control. It might be fulfillment of prophecy about your life. God is in control of every circumstance that we're going through. Trust him. God bless you.